Cheers! Welcome to Movie Bitches, episode 177. Tonight we're reviewing Downsizing. This movie ruined me.
I hated this movie.
I had so many issues with this movie. I did not really... Okay, so we saw the trailer, and I was like, that could be interesting. You called it.
Oh, I did call it.
The teaser, they came out, and everyone was like, I bet you she doesn't do it, or like she dies or something. And
yeah, Kristen Wiig's not in this movie.
Yeah.
Because they never showed her small.
Nope.
I was like, oh, that's a really cool concept, a fun sci-fi concept. I wonder what they're going to do with it. Oh, it's Alexander Payne. I like him some of the times, you know, like I liked Sideways, and I like Nebraska.
We did not like The Descendants. I disliked it more than you, I think.
Oh, no, I didn't care for it at all.
Cool.
He did like Election.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Love Election. With Reese Witherspoon?
It was, so Reese was signed on to do the Kristen Wiig part, and something happened and whatever.
I feel like I might have been more on board. I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter because I physically hated this movie. But it would have made... See, like, I thought, oh, it's Kristen Wiig. This will at least be somewhat funny.
Oh, no.
You know, like, I thought, well, at least this will be humorous.
Nope.
Mildly. You know...
I mean, she's in all of 4 minutes of this movie.
Right.
Of this 2 hour and 30 minute
When you told
movie.
me it was... There was multiple times when I really would have liked to have left.
They needed to downsize the runtime. But like for real, it was insane. There were so many times where there'd be a scene that was taking for fucking ever, and I would just I'd be like, get on with it! You know? It was insane.
This was me through most of the movie.
I would look over and that was literally you.
I was just like, I don't even understand how this is happening in front of me right now. Who gave him the keys to the car and just said, go ahead, here's a full tank of gas? Oh, right. Okay, so apparently this movie cost $65 million. Opening weekend, $9 million.
Oof.
Oh, boy.
I'm trying to think of who would be a better person instead of Matt Damon, because I felt like he was the worst.
Well, so he was terrible. But it's weird because, like, I think I liked The Martian more than you did, but
yeah,
he was funny in The Martian.
Yeah.
He was charming in The Martian. He had, you know, that fit him, or he fit into it, or whatever. This script was so just...
Ugh. The script was honestly the worst part.
Just so nothing.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie, I kept being like, what is the point of this movie? What is the tone of this? Like, what genre would you put this in at a video store? That's right, I said at a video store.
I couldn't tell you. I was like, it's not sci-fi.
Not really. I mean, as much as, like, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is sci-fi.
I would say less.
Less.
Like...
Less so. That's more fantasy.
Yeah.
Family fantasy.
Sure, family fantasy.
I thought it was going to be sort of interesting to talk about overpopulation and how you can have less of a carbon footprint if you downsize yourself.
Well, that's the premise.
That's what it sold me. That's the bill of goods it sold me.
Sure, but then they also had this whole thing where it was like, but also because you're 1/2000th of your size,
you can be a rich, lazy asshole.
Yes. Basically, $100,000 is $12 million. So everyone gets a fancy house and everyone gets, you know, whatever, because there's enough space for it.
Unless you're a minority or a member of the lower class. I mean, so many things happen in this movie. Well, like, remember when James Vanderbeek is in this movie for 10 seconds?
No.
At that party? And he's like, I'm a doctor. And Matt Damon's like, oh, I almost was going to be a doctor.
Oh, God, yeah, that was weird. There were so many weird... Okay, I just want to say this. I know this is going to sound crazy. I did not like this movie.
Oh, no.
But there were often times where I was like, oh, this could have been interesting. They were trying so many things and trying to make so many statements that I ended up not getting any.
Well, first you're like, okay, this is sort of about like the overreach of science, right? That's a plot.
Yep.
Then it's about global warming.
The overreach of humans and global warming.
Overpopulation.
And then it's about, like, society and Well, this idea that basically if you could all make yourselves tiny and everyone gets 1,000 times more money than they had, the people that had zero, 1,000 times zero is still zero.
Yeah, so then it's about like the lower poverty-stricken class, that you still need people to clean your house when you're rich. So much happened in this movie. And yet,
nothing.
I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
I felt like I was being punished by watching it. It was like a 2.5 hour boring lecture.
Yes!
Starring Matt Damon. I mean, at first it starts, well, not at very first, but like towards the first, I don't know, fucking 45 minutes, whatever. This movie goes on forever. I was like, is this just a TED Talk? At a certain point, it was just a TED Talk.
It starts off the first 20 minutes.
With nonsense science. Like with science that doesn't exist. So I'm like, I don't care about the inner workings of how the science works. It's a fantasy.
Thank you. I was so frustrated.
Let's go through step by step about how we're going to downsize him, and let's show him getting his ass shaved, and let's show him getting an enema. And I was like, I do not care about this.
Before that, though.
Interesting.
Well, certainly not. But also before that.
Lots of penises in this movie.
I thought the same. In the movie, I was like, why are they so obsessed with showing dicks?
Not mad because, like, you know, I'm all here for equal opportunity nudity, and like that.
Not a single tit was popped out.
Not a single tit, but there was a lot of penises in this movie.
Yeah. I would have, there's a lot of ways to fix this movie.
Yeah.
We'll maybe get there. I don't know if we care.
I would say cut 1.5 hours and cast Chris Pratt.
Ooh.
And also
I was gonna
have someone else write it. I was thinking I would rather have like a Brian Fuller do this movie, like who did Pushing Daisies. Like he has that sort of macabre, dark, and yet you really care about the characters thing going on. I was like, that would have been cool. Sorry, so what were you saying?
So I was gonna say, well, first off, I was thinking maybe someone like Colin Firth.
Oh, here for it. I love it. I love it. I think if this movie had been in England.
Oh. Ooh.
Or Norway or something.
I think in England could have been a little bit more interesting.
It
especially because it's an island. It's just like cramped, you know, like.
It didn't show like, I don't know. They didn't live in a big city. It wasn't really making. It didn't make us comment on anything.
No,
it was just telling you to feel bad about things.
Yes.
With no solutions except fantastical ones
that weren't even solutions. Oh yeah, we'll get there. There's a lot to talk about.
Start the movie with. He's waking up in the morning. He turns. Not him. Let's make it somebody else.
Colin Firth.
Or let's make it not a man, not a white male.
Sure.
I'm here for not a white male's story about finding himself. I'm really over it. But anyway, our protagonist, wakes up in the morning, turns on the TV, sort of like Shaun of the Dead, like, oh, there's an epidemic. Yeah, something's going on. But everyone's freaking out because you can drink people and it's crazy. What's this?
I wish that we had gotten more of him before.
Yeah.
What was his life before? And I get they were trying to just be, he's just generic Nebraska boring guy. But like, that's boring.
But it was boring.
Exactly.
But like, I was like, but I'm real bored with this.
So like, figure something else out. Have our protagonist give me a little bit of backstory, and then, oh my god, I'm watching the news and you can shrink people now? This is crazy. Oh, the polar ice caps are melting. And like I would have also liked it to be a little bit further in the future. Mm-hmm. This seemed like it was
tomorrow.
It seemed like it was from like 2005.
Sure.
It was like, they kept jumping in time too. It was like.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know you're in trouble when your movie starts and then it says 5 years later, and then the next thing happens, and then it says 10 years later, and then the next.
And he looks the same.
And then it's like a week later, 16 days. It was like around half movie. It was like, this is a lot.
I just wish it was a little bit more Truman Show and a little less.
Like
whatever the fuck this was.
Jim Carrey in this movie.
I could even see that, to be honest.
What a waste of Margot Martindale, the lady on the bus. I love Margot Martindale, and she was just like, hey, you downsizing? It's great. I'm not in the movie anymore.
Nope.
I thought I'd be your neighbor, your wacky neighbor. No, it doesn't matter. At all.
The cast in this movie was insane.
Oh.
The cameos were just, like, everyone was in this movie.
They get the tour before they shrink themselves.
Yes.
They get the tour.
Oh.
Neil Patrick Harris shows up as some douchebaggy infomercial guy
This
That was the
so
most,
weird.
That was maybe the most offensive scene.
I agree. So he shows up, he's in his McMansion, and he's like, hey guys, I'm tiny.
No, and then it was like, this was sort of a transcendent moment. He goes, hey guys, are you having fun? Like he's warming up the crowd and they're like, yeah. And he goes, come on you guys, what? Let's hear some noise. I'm smaller than you. Are you having any fun? And I wanted to be like, no, Neil Patrick Harris, I'm not. I hate this movie.
You having a good time?
I hate this movie. I hated this movie. So then they play out this weird play acting scene with him and Laura Dern, who I can only assume is paying Alexander Payne back a favor from Citizen Ruth. She's in a bathtub and she's like, oh, honey. Like,
honey.
This was supposed to be played for laughs, I guess. And it was
guess.
just so backwards.
You've got to stop inviting guests over without telling me.
Oh, sorry, Laura. I was only...
I mean, I finally just got in the tub to relax after such a busy day.
But also I was like, but wait, he's gay. It was so good. I was like,
But
literally.
your husband is a homosexual.
Why
There
are...
was no homosexuals in Leisureland.
No.
At least that we saw.
That we saw.
I mean, Christoph Waltz, which is probably bisexual
Sure.
in this movie.
Sure.
But there was no gay couple.
No, there wasn't a gay couple.
There was no fun with the village.
Nope.
But anyway,
What's that gonna cost me?
Now, Jeff, you hush. I was really good. Just another diamond bracelet. I got matching diamond earrings.
I had to buy these diamonds, and then I had to buy this bracelet, and I had to buy these matching earrings. And Neil Patrick Harris just keeps going, how much, honey? Like it's the 50s. Like it's some sort of weird Leave It to Beaver.
Right?
And I'm like, this is happening in the future?
Right?
So gender roles and norms are
Have
just
regressed.
exactly where we left them in the 50s. Is that what's going on? He just kept, how much, honey? It was just so, and so I think the point was that it was supposed to be a satire.
How much, Laura?
Oh, but Jeff, they look so good on me, and you should see
How
them.
much, Laura?
Well, Jeff,
I said how much?
$83.
$83? Are you crazy?
But like it wasn't.
A satire of what, though?
Of like infomercial.
But who's
and
making
or,
the satire? That's what I was unclear of.
I think the movie was, in their minds, they were like, oh, we'll do like a 1950s Leave It to Beaver
Right.
ish, not really.
Like, your new
They should
home
have
can
gone
be
all
so
the way and
fabulous.
gone like Pleasantville on them.
I would have loved that.
But they didn't. Because then that would have been kind of interesting. If it's like, oh, and everyone's acting like they're in the 50s, and it's sort of like you've gone back in time to a better place.
Where everyone has their own big house
And that's
and their
where all
yards.
like the
and
nationalist white people live. Like then it would have been something that was
It's
interesting.
been interesting.
And then he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. And it was
Like
just
Get
this-
Out meets Downsizing.
Yeah. Total waste of Niecy Nash. She was there. At some point, so she signs them up. She's like, your $100,000 equals $12 million in Leisureland. And you're like, cool. And then there's a whole lot. This was the only interesting part of the movie. Kristen Wiig goes, oh, so why haven't you shrunken
Oh,
yourself?
yeah.
And she goes, oh, my husband had a hip replacement, so...
He's ineligible.
But I would in a second. And I was like, oh, some shit's going down. Like something crazy. Like she knows something that she's part of the company. She knows something they don't.
Now, see, wouldn't that have been interesting
there was
too
gonna
if
be
it was like a
some sort of-
sci-fi, like The Island or
Soylent
whatever?
Green people,
Exactly.
You know, and like, oh, we're farming them for what? Like, yeah, very creepy. We're stealing all their money because they're so vulnerable.
Sure.
Oh, I don't know what happened to Joe. He was here yesterday.
Squash.
It would have been interesting. It could have been interesting.
I mean,
You could do so many things with this premise.
you could really do so much. The fact that these people are this big, like, makes them so vulnerable
What if,
to
like-
regular-sized people.
And just life.
Yeah.
Because they live in this tented Truman Show-esque whatever. If, like, I'm thinking about The Aviator, like, accidentally flies into their village, something would have happened. It's so vulnerable to everything.
It is so vulnerable.
If
Mosquito
it was, like,
netting.
some sort of, like, reverse on Attack of the 50-Foot Woman or, like, them, right? Where the animals are huge,
Yeah.
right? And it's, like,
Yes.
they're tiny little people and there's some... That could have been interesting.
There was never any of that vulnerability because the only parts we saw of them in, like, the large person world
Yeah.
was them being, like, carried around by their
that's-
butler, which was so weird.
The whole thing is that this downsizing will solve global warming, essentially.
Right.
If enough people do it. But then I was like, but like you guys are dependents. Like you can't contribute at all. You have to be carried around.
Right.
I mean,
Well, in the
there's-
big world, in the
there's
little
certain
world, they
things-
can do their whole city
Absolutely,
stuff.
but there was just like, but you need like a handler to do it. You know what I mean? It was like a weird, but you need like servants to
Right.
exist.
Right. Well, it's like, who's making all of this stuff? How is it being made? You know what would have been fun? If it was like Eat, Pray, Love meets Downsizing.
Ooh.
Right? So, like, we have this protagonist female, and she's just like, you know what? Like, I saw this thing on the news, and
I've
like,
gotten a divorce.
yeah, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna just downsize and live a new life
I'm single and I'm ready to mingle.
in Tinyville. And then she's hung over on Christoph Waltz's couch, and these cleaning ladies come in, and she's like, where are these people from? She's never thought about it, right?
Well,
or
I
whatever.
also don't feel like that's where this movie needed to go.
It doesn't necessarily have to, but I don't mind the idea of, like, that just shrinking society doesn't fix society's problems.
Definitely.
Where it's like, oh, but then over there in the corners where all the poor people live in this, like, you know.
In the like shantytown, poverty-stricken border town. That was like totally the building out of Dread. In Dread, the whole action movie practically happens in one like multi-story building, and they're like making their way up to try and get to the penthouse. It's really good. But this was not that.
This was not that.
I also would have been down for this to be like a horror thriller.
Yeah.
Like a la Coma, like this Michael Crichton sort of like horror movie about this doctor, and she discovers that in a certain OR they are purposely letting patients die so they can use like their organs or something. Like there's some whole big conspiracy with the thing, and they're putting them into comas so they can, it's like a whole thing, and you're like, ah! And I was like, oh, with that whole 25-minute scene where they're
Holocausting them?
shaving him, I mean, right? They're shaving him, they're doing dental work, they're doing all these things. I was like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, this is straight up a nightmare.
It
And
was
I
a-
hated it.
I hate it. It was gross, and it took so long. I mean, literally, okay, it's them shaving his hair, shaving his hair, shaving his hair, shaving other people's hair, shaving other people's hair, shaving other people's hair, shaving other people's hair. It was just like, what?
They
Okay,
did not
now,
show him shave his eyebrows.
Shaving, they didn't show, oh.
He didn't go that far.
Shaving other people's eyebrows, shaving other people's eyebrows, shaving other people's eyebrows.
Shaving his back, shaving his legs, shaving his asshole. What was that thing that...
That was the enema tube, I guess?
Because then they can't
Colonic?
shrink his poop because it would explode because it's...
But that's organic matter. That was what was confusing me. It was so sad. I was like, oh, there was once a time when people would have been really excited to see Matt Damon's butt. And now everyone went, ugh.
Well, we sort of just see his crack.
It was too much for me. I'm good.
It was like a choreographed, like boring. It was like a ballet, but it was
But it
like
was boring and stupid. And it didn't matter.
it was like simultaneously a nightmare and yet very, very boring. So then he's shrunken, and of course, the first thing he has to check is that his penis is still big.
I'm sure it's so big.
And then we get the like classic bitchy selfish wife character who's like,
Don't
"Oh,
hate me.
don't
I
hate
just
me.
can't.
Oh my
Oh, my
God, I
family. They
can't."
tried to shave my eyebrows and I couldn't.
I was just so mad that
I was annoyed with that. I was hoping that I was like, oh, maybe Avryl's wrong and she dies. But I remember, oh no, in the trailer they show us that she doesn't do it.
It would have been actually, I think, great if she had died.
Right?
And then he has to, I have to deal with that.
There were just so many ideas going on in this movie.
I mean, we haven't even talked about so much.
It's just so mind-boggling to me. This movie is 2.5 hours long, and yet it felt like they filmed another 5 hours worth of movie. That's what I say. It could have been a miniseries.
I think it could have been, I kind of want somebody to make a miniseries out of it. Like, Brian Fuller, get on it. Like, yes.
Because, that would have been fascinating, if you really delved in and took the time to develop all of this stuff, and,
Yeah.
okay, well, this week is just about the downsizing process, or whatever. Or, what you can make it more interesting.
Yes. What if the Coen brothers did this movie?
Maybe.
I feel like
There at least would have been a perspective.
it would have been weird and interesting
Yeah.
and dark and
Yeah.
kind of funny and, a movie. Christopher Guest did a mini-series mockumentary with this concept. So here.
Yes.
Like Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, Michael McKean, all of the above. Very much here for that.
Very much.
I feel like that would be amazing. Udo Kier shows up. His friend?
There's so many
I was like,
people
look,
in
it's
this
I don't
movie.
care. Oh, didn't really matter.
Paula from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Didn't matter. Oh yeah, and that like 8 to 10 minute scene of him tripping that was boring.
When
He's
trips?
at the party, tripping.
Oh yeah, he like takes an ecstasy or whatever.
Like, how do you make a I'm on drugs scene boring?
They did.
Not like funny, sad, effective, dark. You know, there's a lot of ways that drugs can take you.
It was
And this was just like him being like, with like multiple, overlays and like a weird color scheme. And I was like, but I don't care about this. We didn't talk about a main character that we haven't even gotten.
That's what I was just about to...
Very soon after he downsizes.
Yep.
There's a news report. Vietnamese refugees hid themselves in a TV box that was being shipped to Target, and they all died except for one. And there was like seemingly, were those air holes or bullet holes?
I didn't know.
I guess, but it would be a tiny gun. Yeah, they never really talked about that, like weapons, like tiny weapons.
Yeah, I don't think there were.
Maybe like a steak knife. But anyway, and how there's only one survived, and she has a horrible leg injury, and they sent her to Leisureland because that has the best small medical hospital. We don't hear about it again for a while. And she then shows up as Christoph Waltz's maid. And Matt Damon takes it upon himself because he's
an occupational therapist. He's like, I want to fix her. Also, wait though.
There was a lot of, I'm a white privileged male, let me fix you and help you and be your savior. And I was like, fuck you, she can save herself. Why don't you go fuck yourself? Why don't you just go die? I was so mad about everything in this movie, the way she was treated. At a certain point, she's like a maid, right? And he breaks her foot because he's a fucking asshole and she doesn't need him in her life. And so she can't work, so he's working for her. Everyone finds him dressed as a maid, which is just a smock, and cleaning houses the most absolutely hilariously embarrassing thing.
Answering telephones was not dignified enough for you. Now you progress to cleaning toilets. I love you, Paul. I really love you. You're such a funny guy.
Fuck you, movie. Like, go fuck yourself. So she then guilts him, forces him to help her.
Yeah.
And then, like, the true asshole he is, gets Christoph Waltz to lie for him.
Oh, right.
That scene. The tonal shifts in this movie.
I'm sorry to say we need the same excellent helper who's currently helping you. Him.
That's right, Knockland. I have to go with these guys to Norway.
I mean, he's the villain.
Yes.
And there's so many movies this year where I'm like, so the protagonist is the villain? That's what you're trying to tell me, right? You suck it, you're on your own with your peg leg. You're gonna just have to get by because we're gonna take a trip to Norway. I was like, first of all, you guys can go fuck yourselves. Then she has a really emotional scene where she's like, oh, I'll go with you. I was invited to Norway when I was I escaped from prison. I was shrunken against my will as like a political, that was like a whole thing that wasn't really explored. Her life has been utter shit. And she's like, oh my God, I'll go with you. I've always wanted to go. Yeah. And then it cuts back to them and everyone's supposed to be like, ha ha ha, white guilt. I don't know.
Oh, I guess we have to take her with us.
She's annoying.
I go Norway too. So happy. Thank you.
I couldn't.
That scene was offensive.
Very offensive. I was so confused because he was like, Christoph Waltz was like, don't worry, I'll save you, right? And I thought it was just like, he's just gonna call in a favor and like get someone to fucking 3D print a fucking prosthetic leg. How long can it take? I don't understand. They've already established this thing where like Christoph Waltz's friend likes
Udo Kier.
Yeah.
He's like, I have a boat.
I have a boat. I love my boat. My God, it's great.
And
I like
go in fjords.
It's like, I love to travel. And he's like, well, how do you get the boat out of here? And he's like,
but I feel like that boat would definitely like capsize in a second, right? It wasn't a shrunken river, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't fucking understand. It was so confusing.
It would be like a little, the boats you play with in the bath.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, it tipped over.
Oh no. I mean, literally, it would be a boat this big. Maybe
like,
it would be like this big.
They're not like shrinking the topography of the land.
I was so confused.
That is very confusing.
Because I was like, wait, so is this like a mini Norway that they created? Are they in like
no,
another
then we find
bubble?
out that it was not.
No, then we find out that it was just supposed to be real Norway. But like the beach that they're on was just regular beach. It wasn't like they were tiny and like
wouldn't all the sand and rocks and plants be like
huge?
Jumanji ginormous?
And they were trying to make that where there was like, remember there was like the dragonfly on the leaf?
Yeah.
But it seemed like fairly regular size. They didn't do a good enough job of being like, holy shit, we're like in this crate, we're tiny.
Yeah.
So that was really weird.
Well, I did enjoy that, like, what the Norwegians need. Oh, we're out of vodka and WD-40.
Which doesn't make any sense at all.
Because then, like, if they try, how could they spray it, the WD-40?
Good point.
It would just go, you know, and then it would blow up everything. I mean, like, what would happen? Would they elicit the help of the dragonfly? Like, okay, dragonfly, you land on this thing, and we're gonna fix the squeaky door? Which this tubing is bigger than the entire door. I don't know. I had a lot of questions about that. I go, if they have a sex scene, we are leaving. They do have a sex scene, but it cut away, and I still wish we had left, but
You do.
we didn't.
But we were so close.
I was like, oh no, you do not deserve this.
I said that out loud in the theater. I said, no. No.
Not without my permission.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. I was waiting for her to full on slap him.
Oh, I wanted her to punch him in the face and be like, no, this is not where this is going.
Exactly.
Well, the whole butterfly thing. That's when I really lost my mind. She's talking about, she has butterflies all over her apartment. Matt Damon, oh, you must really like butterflies. Yeah, I do really like butterflies. Oh, how do you say butterflies in Vietnamese? And it was like, gong bom.
How do you say butterfly in Vietnamese?
Con bướm.
And then at the end, a bunch of giant butterflies show up, and he goes, look.
Look, Knockland butterflies. Kun buyam, kun buyam.
And then he says a completely different Vietnamese word.
Kun buyam, kun buyam.
It like had a K in it. It was like so not the word she had taught him, and I was like, okay, so now this is just a farce. Like he's an absolute fucking asshole. Like he didn't even learn the one word of Vietnamese that she taught him. So he's the villain, right?
Kun buyam, kun buyam.
So yes, so the scientist
Yep.
who invented downsizing and
Yep.
his wife,
Yep, come on board.
who we met at the beginning of the movie and
Yeah,
then
who cares?
don't see for 2 hours
Yep.
and then they show up again.
Yep.
They come on board and they are sort of
Real depressed.
dancing around, like they're sort of talking about something we don't know about.
Yeah.
And they're just like, the event, the thing that happened, the big decision we have to make. Like, and
Yeah.
you're going, okay, this is...
Weird.
At least you've piqued my interest because I'm
Sure.
like, what?
Sure.
What's this big decision?
Yeah.
And it turns out that the methane...
There's a bunch of methane that was
That got
released from
released.
Antarctica, and as more methane is released, then more of the ice sheet will melt, and more methane will be released, and it is a vicious circle, which is a very real scientific thing. That it's a problem that's happening to us right now.
Sure.
And I get it, but like,
Why is this suddenly a thing?
well, like the fjords weren't higher. That seems like a bad idea. To put a tiny miniaturized person village
Oh, yeah.
right on the water when sea level's rising, just a wave. Literally just a wave and your entire village is gone.
It's a tsunami to them.
Yeah, nonsense.
It's not a great plan.
No,
It's a bad plan.
a bad plan.
So they get to the Shire, and we find out that the big decision is that they are going to...
Oh God, because of this cameo. What wasn't it? What's her face from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt?
No, it was not Carol Kane.
It wasn't Carol Kane doing a horrible accent.
You were a horse or a pony, something very strong. And I mounted you and rode you through a dangerous forest.
No, it was some Norwegian woman.
Was it really?
They just had the same crazy hair. Whoa, you thought that was Carol Kane?
Yes!
So, we find out that their big plan, the big decision is that they've been building a vault that they've dug into a mountain? Dug into the earth?
Yep.
With all they're deep impacting it.
Yeah, it's like doomsday.
It's as if a comet is going towards them, but it's just like, oh, there's more methane gas. And you're like, well, why now, though?
Yeah.
They didn't explain that clear enough.
Nope.
There was not some natural disaster that was like looming.
There wasn't like a countdown where it's like we got and that was
No.
what was so really frustrating
Yeah.
about it was that it was like Christoph Waltz then later says, "Yeah, that's not going to happen for like 100 to 200 years."
What was what you think is, this is the point of the movie? Like,
Yeah.
they're going to save humanity. I mean, at a certain point, I was like, so they're going to get on a little tiny rocket ship and go to the moon or something and be like, bye.
Right.
We can live on the moon because we're tiny for reasons. Whatever. A space station's less expensive.
We can build a colony like these little bubbles. We can move these bubbles anywhere.
Sure, something. That would have been fun if they're just like,
Wouldn't that have been...
and then
That would have made more sense.
It's a prequel to The Martian. I mean, it's full circle.
Yes,
Full circle.
yes. But that would have been made much more sense if, like, their little tiny town
Yeah.
was, like, self-contained and sustaining.
Yeah, and he was like, this was the plan all along, that eventually we'll colonize these other planets.
Sure,
because
with
we're
all of
killing
our tiny
planet.
little people. Yeah.
So anyway, they're like, even though we've been planning this for 20 years, Matt Damon, you can come. Like, they seem to be like, you're here, you have an invitation. Instead of like,
guess.
no, we calculated this just right
Right.
for the certain amount of people. And then they say it's
And,
some
like,
sort
you
of
need to pass, like, some sort of mental test and, like, right?
first baby, small baby born that they keep making syphilis jokes about is a liability. They're not taking him underground when he has syphilis.
Did he have syphilis? Is that what
They
that
made
was?
that joke
The
about-
cold sore?
I mean, he at least has some sort of STD, which,
that.
liability.
Treat that.
He's gonna spread it around the village. You guys are all gonna get syphilis and die of insanity and kill each other. Now that's a movie I would watch. Anyway, Matt Damon's like, this is my calling. This is why we're here. And I was thinking, yeah, sure, if that's the point, whatever. I don't give a fuck, but like at least that's something. And they all undercut it. Christoph Waltz is just like, no, they're crazy. This is like definitely a cult. And then Udo Kier's like, yeah, it's a cult. And I was like, wait, what? Is that the point of this movie? And she's like, fuck you, I'm not going with you down there. You're crazy.
Yeah.
Even
and
though
then-
she would be the only Vietnamese representative in this Noah's Ark Deep Impact style mountain hole.
That is true. And then Christoph Waltz is like, they're all just going to go crazy and kill themselves anyway. Plus, we have another 100 to 200 years, so, like, it's cool. And I was like, wait, what? It didn't make any sense to me. Why couldn't they do that whenever the world was about to end?
Be like, oh no, the comet's coming.
Right.
Close the door.
Yeah.
Lily Sobieski, get in here.
Get in here, come here, it's alive!
You
We
know.
lost your prosthetic leg!
Oh, now it's like a Here on Earth, like full circle. Whoa, that was weird. Remember she had leg cancer in Here on Earth? Have you seen Here on Earth? Oh boy. It's not very good. It's better than this piece of shit.
This was a horrible piece of shit.
Oh, this was the worst movie of the year. I hated this movie. I couldn't even laugh at it. So this whole 2.5 hour nonsense was all so Matt Damon could learn the importance of like community service.
I guess?
That was the point of the movie.
Was it?
Because then at the end, he goes back.
Oh, right.
He's handing out food to all these underprivileged, poverty-stricken people, and he gives some chicken to this elderly man in a wheelchair, and then like has a poignant moment of like, this is the point of life. And I was like, fuck you, go fuck yourself.
Right? If you really wanted to make a difference for all of those people,
Renew that license, man. You should be a doctor.
beyond that, couldn't he convince Christoph Waltz or someone to like donate 20 grand to
Right.
build this whole philanthropic wing where anyone in the world who
Can
like
learn how to read.
and do other stuff good too. What is this, a center for ants? Yes, that's exactly what it is, Zoolander. It's for the tiny people. They just needed Zoolander.
The scientist man is giving a very long and lecturing monologue about how we're ruining the planet. It's like very serious. Like I was like, oh God, but this is all real, but there's something I can do about it. And you know, it was like, oh my God, in grave detail how the planet is ending.
Yep.
And there's the woman in the row down from us is just looking at her phone. Checked out. And I was like, yeah, that's what this movie does. Makes sense. So my fantasy ending.
Okay, yeah.
Christoph Waltz is like, no, like it's a cult. Like,
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
like, that's not good or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, it would have been so amazing if it ended like Wicker Man and like Matt Damon was their sacrifice and they all killed him or like set him on fire or something. He was like, you're the sacrifice for our God and you'll make the methane go. Like, that would have been great. If they were like a cult, you know, that was like fucking crazy.
Sure.
Would have been into it. So they're all in the Shire, and they're talking about, oh, should we go? Like, he's trying to convince her to go with him into the Deep Impact Noah's Ark
Yes.
land. And the whole time he's trying to convince her, there's like a pretty aggressive drum circle happening. And I was like, I'm out.
Yep.
And don't say fuck. It's vulgar. Say something else, like, make love or I don't know.
So, what's love fuck?
Even if, it was a grand success and they
Nope.
lived. No. That should have been their first clue. Also, she never got a new leg.
No, right? What was up with that?
I really thought he was gonna whittle her a leg out of some Norwegian wood.
I would say don't see it.
Oh no.
Avoid it.
Oh no.
Don't.
I mean, this was the worst movie I saw this year. Like, I despised it.
Yeah.
I was shocked at how much I hated it. I really thought it was gonna be less, just like, I thought it was gonna be boring, but this was a fuck you movie for sure.
For sure.
Is Matt Damon done?
I think Matt Damon's done.
Like, is there nothing else?
I'm done with Matt Damon, that's for sure.
Kun bujam.